Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Hangout with Innovation Enterprise. Today, we're joined by Phil Burrows, who is the Digital Business Operations Strategy Manager at Verizon. Phil is going to be joining us next month at the Digital Marketing Innovation Summit in New York, which is on March 21st and 22nd. If you want to visit that summit website, then check out the link in the description below this video. Phil's going to be joining us on a panel discussing content marketing in 2017, what works and why, which is a little bit about what we're going to be discussing today. So it'd be great, Phil, if you could just start things off by introducing yourself and telling us a bit more about what you do.
Awesome. So thanks, Rose. Thanks for having me. So in my role currently, I work on go-to-market strategy and also marketing for our Verizon Fios business unit. So when you think about Verizon, it's divided by Verizon Wireless, more of our enterprise and B2B side, and then consumer when you think about internet and TV and kind of legacy phone, which most people don't have now. So really what I look at is between our sales team, our customer engagement team, and the various different functions within the organization, how do we get lift to a lot of the programs we do? So we tend to put things out there, whether it's a mobile app relaunch or a new process or some new customer facing innovation that we roll out to the market. So how do we get additional lift and how do we target the right segments that we need to hit? So that's really what I look at. And then also I look at from a digital strategy perspective, look at how we can merge digital into some of our live sales channels and customer experience channels. So that's really what I have in a nutshell. So.
Okay, great. So obviously we're going to be discussing a lot around content marketing today, and it'd be great if we could start off by having you define kind of exactly what you guys perceive as content marketing and how you're implementing this.
Totally. So I think content marketing is an interesting word. I know it's been around a long time, and a lot of people think when they think about content marketing, they may think of long form sponsored kind of content, right? When you think about long written pieces, executive pieces, right? I think for us, or at least me, I should say, content marketing is really kind of a niche way to reach specific target groups. And it doesn't have to be written. It can be whether it's video, whether it's multimedia, all those different channels. I think there's so many people can define it differently. And when you think about an organization the size of ours, there's different groups that have different target audiences. So what I may think as content marketing may be totally different than what somebody else may think. So for me, it's really getting lift and using specific content to reach niche audiences. I think, not to get too into the weeds here, but I think sometimes a lot of people will think of content marketing as this big, more broad net that you want to cast out there, right? And hey, we're going to push out this great piece of content, whether it's video or a long form article or whatnot. And I don't think that works anymore today. I think where you get the most lift is by going to specific segments. So for us, if you think about, let's say we have a specific recruiting plan for talent we're trying to hire in this team. It may be executive visibility content where we're talking about thought leadership and other kind of stuff we're doing within our group, and then targeting that in the channels that make sense. So it's not going to every single social channel or every single outlet, right? It's really finding where those people live and that being very, very targeted and operational about how you use it. So that's what I would say content marketing is really in my eyes.
Okay, great. Perfect. So let's get right into it then. In your opinion, what impact has new technology adoption had on the operationalization of marketing strategy? It's a bit of a mouthful, that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, totally. So I think it's an interesting time and it's exciting, but I think the biggest thing from an operations standpoint is being able to, and for a company like ours and a lot of the big kind of Fortune companies, it's being able to adopt and adapt to that very quickly and rapidly. So if you think about the way you look at consumers today, even with your brand, right? Your brand could be in a micro moment in the sense that if I'm an app company and I don't get that customer experience right in the first 5 seconds of somebody downloading that app, that customer could kill that app and that's your brand gone, right? in that instance. So when you think about how we're competing in the marketplace, that's really what we have to compete with from a marketing perspective, right? It's being very surgical and very targeted with what we're doing and how we're reaching our consumers. And I don't think, if you think about just how digital media has gone in the past, even 3 years, it's really scaled down between, maybe 3 years ago, it was like, let's be on every single social channel, right? I think people are starting to realize that you may not need to be on every social channel or have the biggest, mass awareness play, but it's really about hitting, if we need to get after a certain segment, let's go to exactly where that segment is, find them and talk to them in their language and be able to adapt to that very quickly. So that's how I see, technology's made it exciting. It's made it, in the sense you have to be very nimble about how you approach things. But also from an operations standpoint, it's sometimes a little bit tough, right? In the sense of being able to shift, especially when you have a lot of stakeholders and money that you're spending a lot of the time. So I find that to be one of the biggest challenges as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so many kind of layers when you're implementing a new strategy. It's difficult to always work around. So how are you guys leveraging content marketing to have a meaningful impact on business results?
Absolutely. So I can say in two different ways, right? So I think about it in the sense of, again, with target segments. So if we think about relaunching an app, right? Are we trying to hit new customers with that? Are we trying to hit our existing base with that? Where are they today? What platforms are they using? Is it a community? Is it Facebook? Is it a social channel? So really taking from a business perspective, identifying like what is the end goal, right? So a lot of times people will look at numbers, right, and say, oh, we need to hit X threshold, but it's really about just being honest and saying, what is the goal of what we're trying to do here? So if it's growing our customer base, that's one thing. If it's hitting our existing customers and saying, hey, we want our existing customers to download this app, then you need to go and find that channel and that platform and utilize the content that makes sense to get that done, right? So putting out an article, in Forbes about how great our customer experience may be, or company's customer experience may be, that might be all well and great, right? That gets just general brand awareness, but is that really targeting exactly the business metrics that you're trying to hit? I would lean to say it's not, right? So how do you do audience development and really hit those segments? So a lot of what we do is, we have big agencies that we work with, but also I think the niche startup agencies that really have a direct line of sight into new kind of consumer plays is where it gets exciting for me, at least. And you're able to, we were talking about operationalizing marketing and content marketing, right? That's where you're able to really kind of turn the switches. And if you look at, even specifically user generated content where it may not live on your channels, like your brand channels, right? We've seen a lot of success in doing that, is really leveraging other people's platforms where it makes sense, in micro influencers, not the heavy celebrity influencers, but more those micro influencers to really reach the audiences that we're trying to reach for specific business cases. So I don't think there's one size fits all for us. I think that's the beauty of working with some of these smaller startups and whatnot, is you're able to kind of plug and play where you need to, depending on the audience that you're trying to reach. So.
Yeah, definitely. So we touched a little bit on social media previously, but is there any other kind of ways that you can outline how companies can leverage this platform, beyond kind of the traditional straightforward advertising that we might have seen in recent years?
Yeah, totally. So I think, again, I think it goes down to, a lot of companies segment their customers, right? Every company segments their customers, generally speaking, 8 to 10 different segments. But when you actually break that down, it's really going into kind of deeper layers of that. So if you think about different platforms, so if we're trying to reach gamers, it might be going into Twitch, right? And that might not just be, a lot of brands will say, oh, we need to reach gamers, we're going to go on Twitch and we're going to set up our own channel, they're going to come to us, right? They're not going to come to you, right? They're in that community. So how do you quickly learn and figure out a way to embed yourself into that community in a way that's contextual and makes sense to them, right? because I think it's easy today. All these different platforms make it easy to see who's authentic and who's just trying to be there because they're a brand, right? So I think you have to be very, very careful about how you do that. But at the same time, if you come in and you're authentic about it, I think the lift and the reward you get from that is greater than any mass marketing or sponsored social can get you, right? So I think it's kind of breaking it down into smaller slices, and sometimes that's a little bit tough because you think about some of the results you may have to hit. Sometimes it might be these mass numbers, right? But I think where there needs to be a shift in perception is, okay, so what if we got 11 million impressions? How did that convert to sales? Did that actually convert to sales? Did it actually convert to downloads, right? Whereas if I hit maybe 1,000 people and I get 150 of them to convert, then that's a success in my book, right? So it really depends on that. It's really kind of taking a look or rethinking about how you measure success in that sense. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people are kind of readjusting their KPIs and their measurements for social media. And I think it's something that we're going to see continuing through the next year. So kind of on that train of thought, what trends do you see as being the most kind of prominent through the next year for digital marketers? Is there kind of any areas of specific growth we should all be looking out for?
So I would say, and one of the ones that I've tacked onto is really the user-generated content. When you think about like Instagram campaigns and different platforms like that, I'd say that's where you're going to see a lot of lift, right? Is Instagram's innovating with kind of the programs they're offering. You've kind of seen a downfall in the sense of like the traditional influencer or paid blogger, right? They've just become very expensive, and the reach, they're going back to kind of the reach and what you're getting out of it. The impressions are there and the reach is there, but you're not getting the results, right? So I find that user-generated content and kind of, letting people and consumers and people that interact with your brand have a say in how they position your brand will give you a ton of lift. So I think there's an interesting play there, right? That's the toughest thing for these big brands, and including ours. Sometimes you have kind of the stranglehold on what you want to be seen about it and how you kind of want to leverage it, and you want that control. But sometimes that's not what the consumer sees, right? And I think, and you want to put basic parameters in place, but I think when you think about giving up kind of a little bit of stake in your brand and saying, hey, these are the things we're rolling out. Let you pitch this to your audience the way you feel it's interesting, right? And I think you'll find a lot of interesting things in the sense of you may think some feature or some piece of your product may be interesting, and that's how you want to go to market with it. But you'd be surprised when you get 50 influencers and you tell them to go loose on your product, what they actually think, right? It may be totally different. We have features on some of our products that maybe, you can live chat with us on Facebook Messenger through our app, which is great, right? To get support right through there. But one of the biggest things, which we thought was table stakes, was being able to pay your bill on the go. A lot of the influencers found that to be super, super helpful, right? And a lot of them latched onto that. So that's something we thought was table stakes, but that was a huge lift for us. And then when you think about like mass marketing even, right? It's really, we like to think about it as experience becoming the product, right? So if you think about traditionally, a lot of companies will go out and say, this is our price point, this is our bundle. We have the fastest network, which we do. But if you take that a step further, right? What if there's price parity and product parity, right? You're really competing with experience. So we've rolled out things like FiO Smart Cam, where you're able to basically, live video chat like we are right now with a customer service rep if you're having trouble with something in your home, right? So we've done advertising and mass media around that. So I think that's where you'll start to see a shift too, is really breaking down certain features and more micro features of your product set and leveraging that to say that we're different because of the experience, right? And not so much this, price or kind of network play anymore. So that's where I'd say you'll see a lot of differences coming up there, or where people need to lean into. It's really leveraging niche experiences that make up their brand in more micro ways to specific target audiences.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the most successful ways to kind of market yourself is to guarantee a positive customer experience. So it's all kind of interesting how it's coming right back to the real basics of what marketers and the wider brand are looking to achieve. So just to round things off today, Phil, it'd be great if you could share a few thoughts on what you're most looking forward to ahead of next month's Digital Marketing Innovation Summit.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so I'm excited to meet all the different faces from around the industry. So when you think about some of the bigger brands, I know, we have folks from Xbox and Pepsi and a bunch of other Fortune 500 brands. So I'd be interested to see where they lie within the organization and how um, how they're approaching content marketing and just marketing in general. Because I think, like Ed said, a lot of big organizations have so many different functions of marketing, right? And me being more on the operational side rather than the creative side, I'd love to see how they're using kind of niche plays and different strategies to reach more specific users. So I'm super excited about that and just kind of getting in the room with a lot of my peers and stuff.
Yeah, great. Well, we're going to have a great mix of people on site next month. And thanks so much for joining us this Hangout today. Like I said, if you want to find out more about how Phil is joining us and participating at the event and more on the other speakers joining us, please do follow the link in the description below. But yeah, all that's left to do is say thanks very much, Phil, and see you next month.
Absolutely. Thanks. Looking forward to it.